Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Before I show you guys a future video on the money shots on this bed, first I'm going to get into the final body work on this. So that's what this video is. Sorry guys, I'm not going to show you the painted bed yet. I'm going to show you guys a video on basically the final body work on how I got to the stage behind me. So this video is just the final body work, final priming, sanding, and getting the bed as straight as I possibly can before I got it into paint. So hope you guys enjoy this one. Here it is. Okay, so I've got this bed ready for final coat of primer. Started by getting this blocked out with 220 and then finished the whole thing, just scuffed it up, made sure everything was good with a red Scotch pad. There was a couple areas, as you can see, that required just a little bit of filler with the low spots. And again, for that, I use this 3M finishing glaze. Back panel also needed a little bit of work with the finishing glaze. I didn't actually do the back panel before with any type of filler, so it didn't require a whole lot of work back there. And this side that needed the most work, this actually needed just a little bit more in these areas. It's more than I would have liked to have done, but that's about what it's going to take to get this whole thing perfectly flat. And once I get this thing in its final coat of primer, I'm going to let it sit for a couple days, and then going to hit it with the longest file board I've got with some 220. Get it cut down, get most of the primer off, and then I'm going to come back and then wet sand the whole thing with some 400 grit. And then hopefully, at least the outer portion, front, back, will be ready for paint. Inside the bed here, again, I'm not going to do anything but scuff this up and just spray it with some sealer and then do base clear on it. Where the inner wheel houses needed the work, where I extended them out. Definitely going to sand that primer off those, and then if it needs any touch up, take care of that. But pretty much the only thing that's getting body worked on the inside are these, just for where they were welded. But the rest of the inside of the bed is just going to get scuffed up and sprayed. And then the underside of the bed, haven't decided what I'm going to do there. I think I'm probably going to put some type of rock guard on it, at least inside the wheelhouses, but I'm not sure the exact nature of my final spray out on it, how I'm going to do it. But I'm probably going to end up doing it in 3 stages, just because I don't want to make a mess of things. So what I'd plan to do is paint the front, the bed sides, back panel in one shot. Can do the entire inside of the bed in another shot, and then do the underside of the bed in a 3rd shot. So for now, next step, this is pretty much ready to spray out. So I'm going to mask this up one more time and then get 3 more coats of primer on the outside of this bed. All right, well, got this thing all masked up. Now get this pushed outside and get some final coats of primer on it. See how it turned out. So final prime turned out pretty good. I like what I see. This thing's been sitting for about a week, and so now I'm gonna start sanding it. Gonna hit this with my long block with 200 and take the top of it off, and then once that's taken down a little bit, I'm gonna go over it one last time with some 400 grit wet. And again, on something like this, if I was spraying it with a metallic, I would go down to 600 wet, but where I'm just doing straight black, normally I just go down to a 400 wet sand. So at this point, I've gone over and sanded both sides of the bed with 200 grit with the longest, most rigid file board I've got. Everything's turning out pretty good, and she's pretty flat now. There was one spot right here, I had to add a little bit of glaze right here and go over this one more time. There was a low spot right there, but other than that, don't see any problems really. Sanded back down to the previous glaze. This was underneath the primer, and then we're hitting a couple spots of the epoxy right there, but everything's turned out pretty good, and it's getting pretty smooth. All the curves and stuff, I'm gonna go over, wet sand it, and all the rest of this is gonna get hit with 400 grit with wet sanding. This side as well turned out pretty good. Obviously here are a couple of the high spots that I'm down to in the epoxy. Again, no big deal. Everything seems to be turning out well. Again, on this side, same thing. I'm gonna go over this whole thing, wet sand it with 400 grit. I'm gonna start off with all the flat spots first and then come back and hit all the curves on the final, as well as the sharp edges. Nothing really surprising going on so far, so I'm just gonna keep at it and hit all this with 400, and this should be ready for paint. At this point, I'm about halfway through wet sanding. This whole bedside is almost done. Just still have to do this inside lip, wheel well arch right here, this little front piece here, and finish around the tail light area. Still have to do the roll pan. And this other side is almost the same, with the exception of this body line right here. And with the body line, I like to tape it off first, and then I will sand this portion of it right here. And then when that's sanded, I will come back, pull the tape off, and then I'll actually go against the body line. That gets those nice and crisp. And then before I get too far, masked off the wheelhouses left and right. And I'm actually gonna do seam sealer. Most of the bed, everything fits really tight. And the original bed had no seam sealer in the bed, but where there are some gaps in here, I'm gonna hit this with some seam sealer inside as well as underneath. I'm gonna go along and do seam sealer in any of the gaps in the wheelhouses, just to try and keep any water or dirt splashing up from seeping in between these two panels. The better idea that I should have done before I bolted it down is I should have put seam sealer down right in here and then sandwiched it, so it kind of squished out just a little bit, but I didn't, and I don't want to go back and take those apart again, so I'm just going to do it this way. Again, the bed had no seam sealer factory, but I think it's a good idea to do it on those areas. Everything else should be okay. It fits pretty tight, and paint should seal off most of it too by the time the base is clear and epoxy's on there, so I'm not too worried about that. So I'm going to do the seam sealer and finish sanding this out here. Do the front and the back halves, and then I'm going to dress this roll pan. Roll pan's decent. There are two low spots right there I'm going to have to address, as well as right in there as well. So I'm going to hit those spots and wet sand it all out, and then that should be it. It should be ready for paint. Minus the stuff I have to do here still. As you can see, those are still pretty rough. But I'm not too worried about that right now. I'm just trying to get the outside of the bed done and get it ready for paint. So the plan is most likely get the outside of the bed painted, wait a week, mask that all off, take care of the inside, get the inside of the bed painted, and then mask all that off. And then I'll probably put on my hoist, raise it up to do the underside of the bed. I feel like the underside has to be done too. I don't think this EDP coating would last very long in any type of elements. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. So I just feel a lot better if I also painted the underside of the bed as well. So I'll probably go ahead and do that too. It's gonna use up a lot of materials, but I'm only gonna do this once, right? So we're gonna hit that with seam sealer and finish at least sanding off this side of the bed, that side of the bed, and then gonna hit this roll pan last. Before I go ahead and hit this edge, I'm gonna show you guys what the tape actually does. So there's a really, really close shot of how sharp the line is if you use the tape trick. And then all you have to do is just hit that edge lightly with your 400 grit, and it'll cut that down nice and make a nice sharp edge. Won't be like the sharp edge I just showed you, but it makes a nice clean body line. And here's that body line after hit it with 400 grit wet sanding it. And then I'm gonna be going over this again with a red Scotch pad, the entire thing, before I actually put the sealer on it. This inside lip's a little bit trickier just because it has a concave shape to it, but same thing applies to it. Just want to make sure that these lines end up nice and crisp. So fortunately, that's it for the body work on the bed of the C10. All that's left is a tailgate, which will go pretty quick, and the hood, which, I mean, that's gonna need a little bit of work, but hopefully it won't be anything like this bed. This bed, I would say, honestly, the bed probably took as long or longer than the cab to do. A lot of hours in this bed. So fortunately, that's all behind me. Get this thing finished and get it back on the truck as soon as possible. So as always, everyone, thank you for watching. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.